everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a card based on an old video game called Frogger. My husband loves classic video games, and when I saw this new stamp set called Totally Awesome from Lawn Fawn, I knew I had to have it because it was just so cute, but I also thought I could make a really cool card that is inspired by Frogger. So if you're not familiar with the classic video game, I stole this off my husband's desk. This is kind of a handheld version of it, and the logo has a frog with a red tie. It's got like a briefcase and everything, so I just added a little red bow tie to my card. And in the game, Frogger leaps across roads and ponds with logs floating in it, and so obviously this doesn't look exactly like the game, but I thought it was a really good inspiration, and I know if I gave it to my husband he would know exactly what it was. So I just thought that was a really kind of fun jumping off point, haha, no pun intended, for a card idea. So what you're going to need is a sheet of 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, and I have cut it in half and scored one of those halves for my card base. And then the other we're going to put everything on, and then on the other piece we're going to do our stamping. And you're also going to need a piece of gray cardstock. This is sort of a textured cardstock that I found actually Tuesday morning. I wasn't even familiar with the company, and it already has like a little bit of a pattern on it, so I thought it was perfect for a road. And this has been cut to 2 inches by 5.5. And then also a piece of yellow cardstock that's been cut to 1.5 by 5.5. So let's grab one of the pieces of the white cardstock, and I am using 110-pound cardstock because I'm going to be inking and spraying and I'm doing a lot on this, so I want it to be a good sturdy cardstock. So I like 110-pound for that. So I've put my craft mat down, and I have gotten a sponge applicator tip and the Broken China Distress Ink, Oxide Ink from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to ink up just kind of the top 2/3 of my cardstock, because the bottom half is going to be covered by the road. And you want to kind of start off the cardstock and bring that color in sort of a swirling motion, and just continue to build that up and blend that ink onto your cardstock. Okay, so I have finished with my ink blending. Like I said, just going down about 2/3 of the way. And the cool thing about Distress Oxide inks is they are similar to just regular distress inks, and that they react with water. So I'm just taking a simple spray bottle. You can buy these empty at the craft store, and instead of spraying it, I want some larger splatters on there. So I'm going to unscrew the lid of the bottle and take the little tube that's inside and tap it and get some nice splatters on there. You could also use like a paintbrush or anything just to kind of flick some water splatter onto that oxide, and it will begin to react. And you want to just take a paper towel and just kind of pat that dry, and you get that nice splatter effect. Like I said, if you want to use the regular sprayer too to get some kind of finer droplets of water, you could do that as well. And then while you're here with your paper towel, you might as well go ahead and wipe your craft mat up. So that's how my cardstock looks now with the splatter pattern on there. I really like how that oxide ink reacts with the water. And now I'm going to bring over my gray cardstock, and I have got a hill, it's a stitched hill die. This one happens to be from a Muse Studio, but Lawn Fawn does make some. There's a lot of companies that have this sort of stitched pattern. So on my piece of gray cardstock, I'm just using a little piece of repositionable tape and taping that to the top, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. So I've run that through the die cut machine. So I've got, hopefully you can see that on camera, I got that nice little stitched line across the top. I'm gonna throw that top piece away, and then about halfway down, I'm going to tape the die again and run that again through my die cut machine. And so now I have these two pieces that will work for my road. So now I'm ready to stamp, and I have placed the other quarter sheet of cardstock in my stamp positioning tool. I'm going to be stamping the jumping frog, his little bow tie, and the log. I'm just going to pick those up, and I am using Memento ink. I'm just using black Memento ink because I'm using alcohol-based markers. Just gonna ink those up and stamp them out onto my paper. And if they don't ink up very well, that's a great thing about stamp positioning tool. You can do it again, but that looks good. So I'm going to remove the frog and the bow tie, and then I'm going to shift my paper up just a little bit because I want 3 of the logs. Just make sure there's enough room for both of those. Ink that up again. Stamp that out and do that one more time until I've got 3 logs. Okay, so I am done with the black stamping, and I forgot to mention I'm using a Lawn Fawn stamp chamois to clean off my stamps. I absolutely love that if you're working with a stamp positioner. So now I'm going to bring over the piece of gray cardstock that I die cut that is straight across the bottom. And I'm going to place the kind of jump lines for the frog and the happy birthday words where I would like them on the cardstock. Close my lid and pick those up. And I'm going to be stamping them with clear Versamark ink and embossing them in white. So I'm just going to ink those up and stamp them out. Make sure that looks pretty good. Get this out of the way. And I'm going to bring my embossing tray over, and I've just got some white detail embossing powder. I'm just going to pour that on my stamped images. I'm going to flick that excess off there. And you can use your finger or a paintbrush if you need to wipe some of that away. And now I'm just going to take my heat gun and emboss that. So I've heat embossed that, and I've got that nice bright white embossed sentiment and those jump lines. And I'm going to color in my stamped images, and I've got 2 shades of brown, 2 shades of green, a red and a yellow alcohol-based markers. And these happen to be from Stampin' Up, but you can use whatever coloring medium or alcohol markers that you would like. So I'm taking the lighter green color, coloring in my entire little frog. So once I've got that colored in the light green, I'm going to add a little bit of shading with the darker green. Give him a little mouth and just add some shading and shadowing in. So I'm going to go back over with the pale green and blend that back in, and I'm trying to avoid those little spots on his back because I want to add some yellow. I'm doing this kind of quickly. You can take your time at home. And I'm going to go back over with the darker green and give him some cute little cheeks. And with my yellow marker, I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow to those spots. And with my red, I'm going to fill in that bow tie. So here's our little frog and our bow tie. And now I've got 2 shades of brown. I'm going to start with the darker brown, and I'm using the brush tip. And I'm just going to add some strokes of this darker brown just in different sections. I just want it to look kind of like real wood. And I'm going to go over that with the lighter brown and just kind of fill everything in. So I'm going to do that on all 3 of the logs. And now that I'm done with my coloring, I'm just going to cut my images out with scissors. There is a die set that goes with this, but I honestly, I've been stamping for so long that I've just, over the years, I've gotten used to cutting out images. I actually kind of like it. It's relaxing to me, so I don't mind it so much. So I don't always buy the dies that go with sets. Sometimes I do, but not a lot. So if you have the die set, that's great, but I'm just going to cut all these images out by hand and leave just a little bit of a white border around the edge. So now that I have all my pieces cut out, I'm ready to assemble. So across the bottom panel that I added the ink blending to, I'm going to add this strip of yellow. Just kind of line that up along the edges. And then I'm also going to do the same with the piece that I heat embossed. Same thing, line that up along the edges. That. I'm going to add some adhesive to this other piece of gray and lay that down, and I'm going to space those 2 pieces out just a little bit. So I've got that little bit of yellow showing, so it gives more of a look of a road. And now I'm going to put adhesive on the back of my logs. I'm just using a tape runner, and I'm just going to space these logs out. I'm going to turn this one upside down just to give it a little bit of a different look. And place this one down. And I have put a tiny little glue dot on the bow tie. And I'm going to adhere that to my frog right under his little chin. Like that. And then I've got foam tape on the back of him. And I'm going to apply him to my card front. Now I'm going to put tape runner all along the back of my panel. I'm going to bring my card base over. I'm going to line this up over the top of my card base. And now I have a really fun card inspired by the classic video game Frogger. So I think my husband, his birthday's not until December, but I'm going to hang on to this because I think he will absolutely love it. So if you have anybody in your life that loves classic video games and would think this was fun, I hope you'll give this a try. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and check out my channel. And if you would subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you next time. This is Heather. Have a totally awesome day. Bye.